Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm talking with author Sequoyah Branham, who is the author of the book In the Company of Cows, and also now its sequel, In Between Pastures. Sequoyah is my cowgirl friend who writes cowgirl books, and I'm really excited to hear from her today. Sequoyah, to start us out, what are some fun facts about you that you like to share with readers?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to get to chat with you, and just grateful to be here. So, super random facts. I, for a long time, drastically preferred sunsets over sunrises. And then there was 3 months that where I lived and the job I was doing, I was up at the perfect time and outside and had a clear view of the sunrise, because I feel like a lot of the times it's a bunch of trees in the way or something, and so that kind of converted me to appreciate when I have a good view of the sunrise. I appreciate it very much. That was my one fun fact I had prepared.
Nice. That's a good fact. Sunrise and sunsets are both really cool. So now let's talk about the books you've published. Tell me some more about In the Company of Cows, which I have my copy of right here, if I can get it to not be too shiny. In the Company of Cows, your first published book, and now also the sequel is out. So tell me about these books.
Yeah. So like you said, they do go together. In the Company of Cows starts with the main character, Nora, facing a drought, and because of the drought, she either has to find a new piece of land to lease or a new job, and this job has become her whole world. And so through the course of that, she kind of grapples with if cows are the only thing in the world. And then and In Between Pastures, we see Nora having really grown, and now she's wrestling with her uncle's cancer diagnosis and trying to keep her own job and his cattle taken care of, while also supporting him and just keeping all the plates spinning. And so all the things that come with a high stress time and emotions is involved as well.
Yeah, and I know a lot of readers have talked about just how relatable they find Nora as a character. There were a lot of details that I found really relatable too, like every time she has to make a phone call, like how hard it is to just, press the stupid button that says call, that kind of thing is just a very relatable character. I also think readers need to be prepared going into your books that they will become very hungry for tortilla chips and cheese. That's a warning. That should probably be on the back of the book, have some chips and cheese on hand, because otherwise you're going to be very sad.
I love it. I've actually had a lot of people tell me that, my writing makes them super hungry. I had a reader actually just tell me the other day that as they're reading In Between Pastures, there's a period where Nora's just so busy that she kind of forgets to eat. And they were like, even if she's not eating food, I'm hungry for her. So, yeah, it's a common theme.
Yeah, whether she is eating or whether she's not eating, we're all hungry. So, a really cool thing about your books is that you're not just writing about the ranching life as someone who saw that in a movie and thought it sounded cool. You have hands-on real-life experience with this. So can you tell me some more about what inspired these books and your background with ranching for real? I'm curious if you wanted to be an author and you were involved in ranching, so then that just happened to be in your books, or was it the ranch life itself that made you want to write?
Yeah. So I have grown up in the ranching community my whole life, and it wasn't until I was about middle school that I really took to it and really started going with my dad on the ranch a lot and enjoying it in that matter. But that was about the time that I started writing as well, and so I think it was very natural. That was my biggest interest at the time, and ranch life just provides ample just ideas for stories of plot, of things, obstacles, things that go wrong, and so it was very natural for just that to be the setting and to influence the stories that I wrote. So yeah, I was privileged to get to ranch with and learn from my dad and several uncles and cousins and just so many great people, and gotten to do it in several different places. And right now I kind of just do that and go help people when I get the opportunity to, so it's not incredibly regular, but it is nice because that keeps me inspired of writing, and gives me ideas for different things, but it gives me plenty of time to write as well.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you have this very specific lifestyle that you write about, and that you have all this very real experience with it, and that just the writing and the as I felt clever about thinking of the writing and the writing, just kind of integrate seamlessly. That's the only pun I'll make on this call, I promise. Probably. I wonder, is there something that you've seen in stories about ranch life or in westerns, cowboy stories, anything of that kind, that just really annoys you because it's so inaccurate or unrealistic?
Oh man, that's such a long list, honestly. Yeah, I could go on forever. There's a lot of, just in horse movies in general, a lot of things that just aren't realistic. Maybe the horse gets gentled in like a week. It's just like, no, like you're not going to be riding it through town in a week. One thing that I think specifically westerns seem to have a lot of that. I'm not going to say it never happens, but it's not as common as westerns make it out to be, is a physical fight for a rancher's land. There's definitely the challenges of paying taxes, property taxes, and on top of, feed and all of those good things, operating costs. But somebody actually trying to take your land out from under you is pretty rare. And so I think just obviously it adds action and plot for the story, but it's unrealistic. And I think that's something that I definitely am passionate about with my stories, is that's not the obstacle and that's not the villain. Because like I said, it's not the average everyday thing that happens.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Leave it to Hollywood to show us a physical fight instead of property taxes. But yeah, I like that your books show the actual, more realistic, everyday struggles of ranch life that a lot of people just don't know about, and so it's cool to learn more about what it's really like, and it doesn't have to be less interesting just because there's less punching and shooting and whatnot. And there's a lot of those. Yeah. So, what has your publication journey looked like? How did these books go from these ideas that you had to now being these physical copies of very nice, very shiny books that we have?
Yes. So kind of my process in general, I plot my stories, obviously first draft, and then in between my own edits and edits that I hire out, and then peers that also read. Story will go through 7 rounds of critique, their edits, before publication. And so that's developmental, line by line, and then the proofread. So that's quite a process. And then of course, cover designer and all of those things, because I guess, as I should have mentioned, I am an indie author, and so I have the freedom to work with editors of my choosing, and just be able to source things from people that I know and trust. So that has been something that I've really enjoyed, and I'm grateful to have that freedom. For these stories specifically, in the Company of Cows, I started with in mind to publish, but I didn't really have a timeline in mind, and so it was a pretty it was a longer process from like concept to publication, just because there was a time that I set it aside, and then when I finally did decide to publish, but for In Between Pastures, it was like 18 to 20 months between concept and publication, and that was we got it done, and I'm happy with the product. But that was a very exhausting timeline, and it's definitely the push that I needed to build some more flexibility and buffer into my publishing schedule, and just give myself time to breathe a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think it can be easy to hear 18 to 20 months and be like, oh, almost 2 years, that's a long time. But as a fellow author, I'm like, oh man, that is so fast. Yeah, from concept to publication, that's rapid. So yeah, I'm sure that was a lot of hard work. The benefit of having, I'm sure, the first story to build on. But in some ways, I think the sequel is harder because you have to build on the first one. So, and that kind of leads straight into my next question. But first, I also wanted to point out that I think it's helpful that you mentioned 7 rounds of edits. I don't often hear authors put a specific number on how many rounds of edits they went through. And I think another thing that we tend to hear just as readers is like the book went through edits. And we're like, oh, okay, it got some changes made. But the actual process is like round after round after round. So, yes, lots and lots of work. But yeah, my next question flows right out of that, which is, what was it like to go from publishing your first book to your second book, and go from debut book to now you actually have 2 going on at the same time? You're following something up, you have readers already. How was the experience different, and how did you kind of transition from a one book author to a multi-published author?
Yeah, it was definitely a different experience. Like you said, kind of this is pre-publication of In Between Pastures, but in some ways it was easier to plan and draft this second book because I already know Nora, I already know Ian and all the characters, and kind of like what's their voice and that kind of thing. But it was also a lot more intimidating because I'm not the only one who knows Nora and Ian. Like, I have readers who loved them, and as a reader myself, I know that having read a first book, you have an expectation for the second book to some degree. And so trying to just balance that of like showing that Nora's grown, but making her the Nora that everybody loves, and just a lot of things to balance, and just with those expectations kind of swimming around in the back of my head. So that was definitely a little bit more like simultaneously easier and more difficult. And I would say similarly for the publication and marketing process as well. It was really nice to just kind of know, like, what are the steps, how do they work, what does it look like, from first launch to second launch. That was super great, but it was more difficult because I actually leading up to launch of In Between Pastures. Launch day was actually the 1-year anniversary of In a Company of Cats as well. And so I had a pretty big goal sales-wise that I was trying to reach within the Company of Cows. So I'm pushing 2 books really hard at the same time. And so that's another reason that I've really decided to take a little bit of a breather here before jumping straight into everything that comes after launch, let alone another project. And so it took a lot of energy, and it was a lot of fun, and it was easier in an aspect of when you talk about one, it directly points and leads to the other one, and so they kind of market each other. And at the same time, it was more difficult because it's just more energy. Like, there's more things to think about, and how do you word things? How do you set things up where they do market each other without confusing people? And just all of the like nitty gritty. It was a new learning curve. Instead of like, what does a launch look like? It's how do I get these 2 books to complement each other at just the right way?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it was both easier and harder the second time. That there are new challenges, but then also challenges this time that you weren't facing last time. So that makes a lot of sense. Probably a bit like a character in a second book, right? Where they've grown a lot through the first book, but now they're going to grow some more. And they're not going to deal with everything they dealt with in the first book, but they're going to deal with some new stuff. So sometimes we just get to grow right along with our characters like that.
Absolutely.
So, when a reader picks up one of your books, what kind of experience are they in for? What is it going to be like to read a Sequoyah Branham book? What is it going to leave you with?
Yes, my books are very similar to the show Heartland, for readers who are familiar with that. I promise no unrealistic horse moments. I spent enough time around them to know the details, and I kind of joke sometimes that I cheat when I'm writing because I do know things that I write about so intimately that it feels very easy for me to write things that are accurate and to kind of delve into the sights and sounds and smells of that. So, I promise no unrealistic horse moments. These are stories that show what ranch life is actually like, while also relating to people who don't know what ranch life is like, because even as ranchers, we struggle with the internal things that everybody else does. In the company of cows, Nora battles severely with social anxiety and the desire to reach her goal. It's on the other side of making a phone call, but how hard that hurdle is to get over for some of us. And then again, kind of as I talked about before, her Uncle Ian battles cancer in between pastures, and even cowboys, even ranchers are not immune to facing those kinds of things as well. And so I really strive to balance ranch life with everyday life that everybody faces, and so just bringing those two together and connecting us all a little closer, because while what we do day to day may be different, we're not as different as I think sometimes it can feel like we are.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's very frequently the case that the most specific stories are also the most universal stories in a lot of ways, where the more focused it is on this particular person and this particular niche and this particular way of life, the more we find those internal things that everybody deals with. And yeah, reading In the Company of Cows, I definitely didn't feel like it was unrelatable just because it's in a setting that I am not as familiar with. It's very human, and like I, as mostly a fantasy reader, love being transported to another world, and I found that like I felt like I was being transported to another world in a sense, even though like Texas is not that far from me. It just felt immersive like that. So even as a fantasy reader, I could appreciate just how specific the setting felt. Made me feel like I was there. Made me want to go to a Mexican restaurant to return to the food thing. I don't know what it is about the food thing, Sequoyah. I really don't. What are you gonna do about it? What are some of your favorite successes or milestones as an author so far, or just some moments that have been among your favorites since publishing your books?
Yeah, I do want to jump back just really quickly and say that I think I'm going to have to pencil in on like my reader promise that totally just floats free in my head. It's written nowhere, but that making people hungry needs to be added there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as far as wins and just things that I've really enjoyed, I honestly just feel like the people, the readers that I get to connect with, I kind of by accident, I learned that signing books specifically to people and being able to slide a little note in that package and ship it off myself, and being able to sign books like at events for people and hand that across the table is absolutely one of my favorite parts of all of this. It's just getting to connect with people, and it's not just a void that some Amazon buyer bought my book, but really getting to like see a name and see a state or a country that it's going to, and just I don't know, it's very it's a blessing to me to get to do that. And so that's kind of the biggest one that I can think of. I've gotten to go some really cool places, meet some really cool people because of my books. There's a Western horse event called Art of the Cowgirl. That's a week-long. They have horse shows, like classes. It's a whole to do. If you're interested in Western things, absolutely check it out. But so got to travel out there last year and plan to this year as well. And just again met amazing people, had amazing conversations, and that was kind of something that happened much faster than I thought it would. It was kind of on my dream list, but it ended up happening in the first year, which was very crazy. And podcasts that I've been able to be on, and just people like the hosts that I've met through that. It's just been so cool, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, those personal connections with readers are just amazing. And I love all of the in-person events that you've done and the face-to-face interaction that you've gotten to have with readers. I think is really special. Especially, I can just imagine people in the ranching community who are reading your books and like, somebody's finally writing books about us that are actually about us and not about Hollywood stereotypes of us. So I think that's just really neat how you've been able to connect with your readers and find so many of your people so soon after publishing your books.
Yeah, it's been really cool since that event. Like I said, sold a ton of books, talked to a ton of people. When I was actually posting in some Facebook groups, and somebody commented and was like, I got this book at Art of the Cowgirl and I loved it. And it was just like, I don't know, kind of for that interaction to like come full circle. It was so cool. And yeah, just an added bonus to that whole experience.
Yeah. Yep. With book sales, it's definitely the people that make it matter, not the numbers. And it's so cool to see that come in full circle, like you said. So you published in the Company of Cows. You just released In Between Pastures. What was the actual launch date for In Between Pastures?
October 24th.
Okay. So, yeah, very, very recent. Less than a month ago as we're talking right now. And then you're taking a bit of a breather, taking a bit of a break. But what can you tell us about what is next for you as an author?
Yeah, I definitely more stories in the future. I have multiple ideas running around in my head, but one specifically picked out that I am jumping into next. I'm going to take a little bit of a publishing break for over 2025 and jump back into that in 26. But I'm planning to still be active and still be connecting with my readers and finding just more and fun ways to do that. I will be most active on my email list, which you can find through my website if it interests you. Just really my goal for this next little section is just to really enjoy life, enjoy my readers, and just gather inspiration and stories to have ready to share with you all when I can come back from this little publishing break.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. Do you know if there are going to be more Nora Kelly stories, or is it just these two?
I would love to write another story about Nora. I don't see that for several years. It would be a time jump in her life, but also a different season that I don't feel like I've lived well enough to write. And so I want to, I would love to revisit those characters a little bit down the road when I've experienced a little bit different seasons of life and be able to write those seasons for them. But yeah, for now, it's just going to be these two stories.
Awesome. Yep, that would be really fun to return to these characters in this world several years later. But then I also like that you're going to be trying out some new things and probably introducing us to some more characters and stories in a couple of years. So that all sounds really exciting.
Thank you.
So finally, where can readers find your books and find out more about you?
Absolutely. Best place is my website, sequoiahbranham.com. You can sign up for my newsletter on there, which is the place that I'm most active. You can email me directly if you want to chat. I love those. My books are available there. They're also available wherever ebooks in the Company of Cows has an audiobook and print books are sold. Like I said, I do sign and send out my own books if that interests you, and those are available through my website. I am on Facebook and Instagram at Sequoyah Branham. Here of lately, that has been my least active place, but I am there.
Perfect. And I do have your website linked in the description, so all of you who are watching either now live or later watching the recording, you can find Sequoiah's website in the description, and that will take you straight to In the Company of Cows and In Between Pastures and Sequoiah's email list and all of the other fun things. So that's all my questions for you, Sequoyah. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we hop off?
Just thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all of you who are watching, and just keep reading.
Yep. Well, it's been great to talk to you today, Sequoyah. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on my channel and chatting with me for a while. And I will look forward to talking to you more later, and also reading In Between Pastures, because I've not actually read it yet, but this made me really want to read it. So I'll have that to look forward to also.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Talk to you later. Bye.